There we go.
Right on time, team.
Welcome to the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living's Wednesday night oasis. Buckle up. This is going to be a great evening. My name is Reverend Sally Bartholomew. I am a staff minister and also the secretary of the Board of Trustees at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. Tonight, you are going to get to experience what Wednesday night is all about. It is a place where we come together as a community to be spiritually refreshed, uplifted between Sundays. Now, most Wednesday night services build upon the theme of the previous Sunday, and this Wednesday night is no different. We'll be sharing in a satsang style where we talk a little bit about the principles and the practices with the intention that these gatherings be informal, intimate, and interactive. So last Sunday, Teresa Gardner and Elena Hutchinson gave us their ideas of the talk title inspired by Standing Stones. And tonight, our speaker continues the exploration of this same topic. This is all among the theme of Living Out Loud, which is our annual theme for 2023. And our monthly theme for July, I'm on the cusp of both months here. Our monthly theme for July, which we're speaking to tonight, is Speaking Truth to Circumstances. So as we gather tonight, we welcome you. Now, early in her ministry with us, Reverend Sunshine Michelle invited us to come to the center well. Come well. And to do so, she shared with us 6 C's to consider. And this evening, I have all 6 here. Come with a heart of love and tenderness. She calls that compassion. Come ready to exchange openly. Communication. Come in harmony and ready to share. Communion. Come in friendship and family. Camaraderie. Come in partnership and cooperation, collaboration, and come in spiritual awareness and truth, consciousness. So as we move into the program tonight, remember these 6 C's. These are our premise for sharing this wonderful evening with you. So welcome. And looking at the list, I see a lot of familiar names before I came on to the screen. But if you're new here, I invite you to navigate yourself after the show to www.oaklandcsl.org, where you can click on our I'm New icon. And when you do, and you provide us with your email, you'll start receiving the Village newsletter once a week in your email. And it's got all the information about what's happening in the center in the coming weeks. Now, before we get started, I have a few housekeeping notes. I want to let you know that you're welcome to leave your video camera on so that the speaker can see you if he wants to. But I invite you to mute your audio so that the recording is clean for those who listen to it later on. Stay tuned all the way to the end of service to receive special and important announcements. So now it is my honor and joy to introduce our speaker this evening. And actually, before I do that, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm so excited to hear him talk. But right now, what I'd like to do is have us open with prayer. And so let me turn it over to practitioner Christopher Brown for that. And he'll send it back to me to introduce our speaker. Christopher?
Thank you, Reverend Sally. So if you all take a breath with me and breathe into that sanctuary of the heart, that sanctuary of spaciousness that knows no distinction, a sanctuary of pure acceptance. And from that place of peace and quiet, I bless this evening. I bless Paul, our speaker, as he regales us with standing stones and way much more. I give thanks for Reverend Sally, our hostess with the mostest. I give thanks for the fabulous tech team. And I give thanks for each and every one who has tuned in this evening, who has brought their curiosity, their insight, and their wisdom. For this and the more, we are grateful as we come together in community to simply celebrate one another this evening. And with that, we release this by saying, and so it is. Back to you, Sally.
Thank you, Christopher. So, as Christopher said, and you knew when you came here, because I can see how many came this evening, Paul Presuitti is our speaker this evening. Now, if you have been around the center for any length of time, you've probably heard about and maybe even assisted with the service projects that Paul has either led or been actively involved with in the center. And prior to December 2022, Paul was the main host for this evening's event, Wednesday night service. And as a guest speaker on Wednesday nights, I can tell you that I always felt fully supported and loved when it was my turn to speak on Wednesday nights. So what I wanted to share with you as an introduction with Paul is one of the very first times that I really got to work closely with him. And it was during the chocolate cabaret. Some of you may have been here at that time. We were hosting a variety show of sorts as kind of a thank you for the volunteers at the center. And I got to perform a spiritual striptease. Well, to do so, I got to borrow one of Paul's gowns for the show. But okay, that's a story for another time. And I can tell you, I had so much fun in this activity. So for this evening, what I really want to tell you is that here at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, we say it every Sunday, we teach spiritual living, and Paul is a prime example of one who lives spiritual teaching. He is a true practitioner of this philosophy. He actively engages and encourages others to do so with the material. In every study group, every class, every Wednesday night service that I've participated in with Paul, he's been able to listen for the instructions to practice and then put them into practice in his own life. And I think you'll hear a little bit more about that this evening. He listens to spiritual teachers like Dr. Dan, the Aramaic teachings, the Chosen, any of our accredited classes. And he shares these lessons also in interesting places like our crochet and knitting circles that we had at the center. We'd sit there and talk about spiritual stuff. So I learn something new every time that I interact with Paul, and I'm sure that you will as well this evening. So Paul, I turn it over to you and welcome.
How do you follow that, huh? I am so grateful. I'm going to share with you one of my nuggets of truth right now. One that I created myself. Sally just did half of my talk, but I'll revisit it. And I believe that gratitude is the cradle of happiness. And I begin tonight in a state of gratitude. I'm so thankful for all the people that get to show up and get to watch us later on and all the support. And to you, Reverend Sunshine, for the invitation. I am extremely transparent. I am that crazy guy, and I am very nervous, even though I have many years of stage experience. So I want to be truthful and honest that I'm grateful, and I'm going to do the best that I can and try to stick within the limits of time that we have. But I'm warning you now, I have a lot to say. And I'm going to say it in the themes that Reverend Sunshine has spread for us. I'm going to live out loud. I will be speaking truth to circumstances tonight. I'm going to show you my standing stones. And this week's affirmation in our beautiful OCSL calendar, I have taken and will continue to take time to listen to Spirit's highest ideas of life. So thank you all. I start with happiness, which was cradled from gratitude. The standing stones. Peter, my beloved, oh God, he's the best. Let's start with the first slide, if you would. See this picture? Constance wanted to put this slide together for tonight's service and asked me if I had a picture of me that I liked. She had some stock photos, but I didn't like any of them, as there were always and is and always something in those pictures that really didn't represent the image I have of myself now. Many were taken a long time ago, and I don't look like that anymore. I don't feel like that anymore. Many had me with my glasses crooked, or I was wearing dated clothing, or because I've been around the center a while, or the lighting wasn't right, or the angle wasn't flattering. I had a long, very, very long list of rejections of the pictures that we had on file. So as we were discussing this in our office, I suggested that we just take a new one. And I leaned on her desk and I struck this comfortable pose with those casual clothes, and my glasses were straight, perfect, and all inclusive. I am happy with this picture, and I am happy in it. Exactly what I wanted to project in that moment and in this moment. So here comes speaking truth to circumstance, little nugget number 2. Constance is a creative and intuitive genius. I am so grateful because you captured in your photograph, in your presentation, everything that I wanted to talk about tonight. So in the picture, you'll see that it is comprised of stacked stones and rocks of different colors, sizes, and shapes, and I'm in the middle. The stacked stones are standing on each other, and they rely on each other to form a foundation and then a framework within the whole of the picture. So I thought to myself, what is a rock? What is a stone? Well, science tells us there's 3 kinds: igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. Igneous rocks or stones are formed from melted rock deep inside the earth. Sedimentary rocks or stones are formed from layers of sand and pebbles and silt and dead plants and even animal skeletons. And metamorphic rocks and stones are formed from other rocks that are changed by heat and pressure underground. For me, this picture represents the whole, one, and perfectly all-inclusive image I have of myself and my view of my world as I see and know it at this current stage of my life. And each stone stacked represents a nugget of truth that I use individually or collectively as a whole, one or some or many or all, to speak that truth to the circumstance and or situations that have appeared in my life and will appear in my life moving forward. For me, these stones or rocks are not igneous or metamorphic, but they're sedimentary in form. They're layered, connected, sturdy, strong, diverse, and true. There are many layers together forming one strong, rock solid foundation and framework that I stand upon as it also surrounds me. This one whole picture is made up or composed of certain real elements. There's a top and a bottom, a left and a right side. It has a center, and it has a complete surrounding edge. This represents the continuum of my life as I see it, my view through my lens. So what is a continuum? A continuum is, one, a difficult word to say, and 2, is defined as a continuous series or whole no part of which is noticeably different from its adjacent parts, although the ends or extremes of it are very different. Reverend Sunshine would say unique from each other. My goal tonight is to share with you some of the nuggets of truth that I have gathered and used to speak my truth to circumstances. So I beg the question of all of you. Are you willing to go on this journey with me? Yes? Well, buckle up, as they said at the beginning. Thank you, Peter, for that slide so much. My primary nugget of truth is that I believe I was born into this existence as a special and unique being to do good and great things in the world. This nugget of truth has been in my pocket through all the iterations of my life. My occupational career and voluntary participation in a philanthropic organization for many years prior to arriving at the Oakland Center were rewarding, as I was recognized for my many unique and special manners and ways in achieving accomplishments and the value that I brought to both of these organizations in delivering good and great things. I was able to start at an entry level in both realms of these organizations, and I left both organizations in high positions of authority and respect. I am in a successful relationship with my partner, Stephen. You rarely hear me speak about him. We've been together for 37 years. The nugget of truth that reflects our relationship, that speaks to our circumstance, is that the foundation of our relationship is built on a statement from Terry Cole Whitaker. She's a Science of Mind minister from San Diego, and she had a television show in the early 80s. And she says about relationships, the essence of a true relationship is that you are willing to love your partner, love them enough to let them go so they can go on to be truly who they are. Stephen and I have always given each other the longitude and latitude to allow each other to do what makes our hearts sing, both individually and collectively. I started attending OCSL in 2010, and I have collected a ton of nuggets of truth to speak to circumstances, which continues to build and strengthen my foundation of faith and trust in the unfoldment and process of my life. I have had many satisfying projects, contributions, collaborations at the Oakland Center, especially in the area to the service of the facility side of things. Truth told, I enjoyed this sacred service more than attending classes, and I am quite satisfied not rising in the system of practitioner or minister. I really have always loved order, maintenance, improving and fixing things, and playing a supporting role in the visions of the many ministries and the ministers at the center. It makes my heart sing because it is my thing. Along the way, during our Reverend Jeff time, he took the bold, radical, and revolutionary step to ask me, the laity guy, to step from behind the scenes and take the lead to host his vision of the Wednesday night midweek Oasis service. I only accepted as no one else wanted to step forward to do it. But he felt confident that I could do well, so I reluctantly agreed. I knew that some members in the community would prefer this role to be held by a practitioner or minister, and I worried about that. But I survived. I've served in this capacity for about 7 years, mostly as the lead, but I now share this space with the new leader, our Reverend Sally Bartholomew. My gratitude, my happiness tonight is Reverend Sally for creating the space so that I could tend to family matters at home that I've had to do since December. So thank you, Reverend Sally, off the top, for stepping up and stepping in and letting me take that time off. And now we co-share our wonderful Wednesday nights. Hosting the Wednesday night service gifted me to receive a nugget of truth each week and every week, and I was lifted and shifted by the many fabulous speakers. Who needed classes when I got one every Wednesday night, right? But soon after we restarted our Wednesday night services during Reverend Jeff's period of time, my world was shook. The solid ground and rock solid truth revelations that I had built with those many nuggets of truth shifted, quaked, and began to fall apart. The presidential election of 2016 was so devastating to me. I watched all night the unfoldment of the outcome and went to bed that night asking God, how could this happen? I woke the next morning seriously with the feeling that I had been gut punched, that my heart had been broken, and my mind was filled with confusion. For the very first time in my life, knowing all of my triumphs and tragedies, up to that point, I felt unsafe and not guided, guarded, and protected as I had previously and deeply believed. I thought about all those good and great things I had done and the grand and glorious things that I did with like-minded others. Those others in my world had now become tainted as I had, and I really wasn't as special as I thought I was, and those works were threatened to be erased. How could I possibly survive 4 years of this newly appearing, at least to me, other reality where mean-spiritedness, division, hate, and anger dominated the preceding campaign period running up to the election? Now, I am very aware that my feelings are not shared with others that are in the country or even in California, some in my hometown in Castro Valley, and even some at the Oakland Center. But that's okay, because what made circumstances even worse is this election cycle created a large division in my immediate family, which never existed before. I was shook. I think you get that. That's a BFO. I call it a blinding flash of the obvious. But it took me a little time, and I started to reach back to all my little nuggets of truth that are now leveled and scattered about the landscape of my shocked lens of view. I knew I had to speak them back into my existence and restack them so I could use them as a foundation to speak truth to this new circumstance. And it was obviously very painful for me to experience. But there's good news, and that good news is that I had Wednesday nights as a place where I might be able to acquire new nuggets of truth and start rebuilding my foundation of faith. Maybe I could take the old nuggets of truth and in a sedimentary kind of way and add new nuggets and mix them together and start forming a new rock solid standing on a new series of stones to stand upon. Clearly, as the speakers in that period of time on Wednesday kept coming week after week, their topics were all related to revealing and healing. And that was on almost everyone's mind at that time. The first inkling of the possibility of rebuilding my faith foundation started with practitioner Judith Roberts. When she spoke about an African village practice of Ubuntu, where the children of the village were asked to run a race and the winner would receive a basket of fruits. One of the children questioned the practice and crafted a win-win situation. The children ran the race, but they did it with their hands joined, and they all crossed the finish line all together at the same time. They all shared the prize amongst themselves. Everyone won. At Nelson Mandela's memorial, President Barack Obama spoke about Ubuntu, saying, there is a word in South Africa, Ubuntu, a word that captures Mandela's greatest gift, his recognition that we are all bound together in ways that are invisible to the eye, that there is a oneness to humanity, that we achieve ourselves by sharing ourselves with others and caring for those around us. Then on a Sunday, how dare she, Reverend D. Jacqueline spoke on a Sunday, and at her service, she addressed my issue to me head on. I'm the only one in that audience that day of 60 or 70 people, right? No, she looked at me and she was delivering this to me because I was seeking it. I'm kind of joking. She posed this question to all of us in the room. How can you treat the other as anything different than you? Can you bring yourself to embrace the other with grace? Wow. Between that and Ubuntu, I started looking at and finding new little nuggets of truth. And if she can ask me to consider this, certainly I could entertain this path of resolution for myself. So from this posture, I discovered the small group that was meeting and reading Dr. Daniel Lee Morgan's book, Guidance for a Spiritual Journey. It was part of Black History Month, and it was scheduled to run only for 1 month of February over 3 years ago. And I had been advertising it several times on Wednesday nights preceding and during its run. I decided I needed to at least support this group activity at least once. So on the very last day of its scheduled run, I attended the February 28th session. Dr. Dan's topic that day was healing negative thinking. Ooh-wee. And joining this loving group and reading and sharing that one day brought me into a greater realization that I could get over my negative feelings of this so-called self-created other. On May 2nd, Dr. Dan's sermon on the topic of free willing starts out with this: great souls are developed only where minds are left free to employ the best known methods according to their understanding and insight. Thinking to myself in the moment, what am I standing on? What is my understanding? So he gives us 5 of his best known methods. May appeal to some of you or all of you or none of you, but it appeals to me. Learn to be still. Rejoice and be glad. Love everybody and be kind. Have faith in abundance and pray without ceasing. This gave me more hope, more skeletons and things to start forming a new stone foundation piece to put into my foundation of faith. And I use his methods daily during my dedicated prayer and meditation period. On July 26th, Dr. Dan's topic is the power of silence. He starts his sermon with these thoughts. Go there with me, folks. It is in the quiet time that divinity comes, truth comes, life comes, peace comes, and God is. Or I might say, and good is. Further in this sermon, he writes, the only effective and potent weapon against the fear on this end, doubt, uncertainty, and apparent lack we experience on the other end is the silence which comes of the conviction that there is a something that created this universe and is responsible for maintaining it unto eternity. And we use our ability to relax in silence and let that something perform its function. Let it do its job. The Bible reference for that day is Psalm 46, verse 10, be still and know that I am God. In my modern Bible, the Good News Bible, today's English version, it translates that verse as, stop fighting and know that I am God. Was that written for and by me on purpose? It sure sounded like it. So I have resigned myself to take things a little lighter, hold them a little bit more preciously and lightly, and stop fighting. From the Dr. Dan group, we stumbled upon an internet television series called The Chosen, which depicts the life of Jesus through the lens of the eyes of his disciples. We watched the series together with my beloved Reverend Sally in our group, and she's leading us. And then we do the Dr. Dan on it. We take notes and share what we gleaned from the presentation. We now can relate more clearly with the Bible verses that Dr. Dan presents each day to us. One day during a Dr. Dan discussion, Deborah Jackson mentioned the work of Greg Braden as she felt that some of his ideas would help and interest me. I jumped all into his Isaiah Effect video and gathered some very informative neuroscientific information. But within his presentation, he mentioned the Essenes. And these were the people that influenced Jesus and John the Baptist back in the day. And he shared his 5 Essene tenets on compassion. This process that he writes is exactly what I needed to add to my foundation of faith, rebuild on how to deal with the other. I really needed this idea, this new thought, so I could really come to grips on how I could deal with the other. I'd like to share that with you tonight. For me, this information is more than a nugget of truth. It is a blueprint to rebuild my foundation of faith, to reconcile that view of the other. So Peter, can you share the next slide? Thank you, sir. Greg Braden says, if you acknowledge that there is a single source, and a lot of this is going to sound familiar from somebody else that we know, the big guy on the wall in the sanctuary. Acknowledge that there is a single source of all that is or may ever be, that every life event without exception is part of the one. Trust in the process of life as it is shown to you, divine timing with no accidents. Believe that each and every experience drawn to you without exception is your opportunity to demonstrate your expertise of life. Believe that my life or your life or our life mirrors our quest and desire to know ourselves in all ways, knowing our extremes, those extremes in the continuum that I talked about. Knowing that those extremes so that you could come to the middle and find your balance. Believe that your life essence is eternal and that your body may enjoy the same experiences of eternalness. Then, how can you at the same time judge an event, choice, or actions of yourself or another as right or wrong, good or bad, or anything other than the expression of that one? Next slide, Peter. In other words, if you and I believe that our life is eternal, we believe that our life mirrors our quest and desire to know ourselves, I recognize it is a journey divinely inspired. I believe in the divine order and divine timing. I believe that each experience expertly drawn to me is an opportunity for me to demonstrate that perfect, all-inclusive divine life. I trust in the process of life as it unfolds unto me, and I acknowledge that there is a single source of all that is that one. So then, how can I, at the same time, judge an event or see it as something other than the one? Greg Braden goes on to say, but if you question or do not believe in the essence of any of these statements, then you have just defined your next step in your path towards balance and expertise. Thank you, Peter. From Greg Braden and Dr. Dan discussions, Reverend Sally shared she would like to do another new book study on the writings of Neil Douglas Klotz, Rocco Errico, and George Lambza, and form a class on the Aramaic teachings of Jesus. The work of Neil Douglas Klotz, Rocco Errico, and George Lambza, translating from Aramaic directly to English, has opened for me a new and even larger, great way and a firmer understanding of the message of the good news. Another small group meeting on the reading of Ernest Holmes' Living Science of Mind. You know him, the guy in the sanctuary on the wall. Ended each reading session with this prayer meditation. And he wrote it, and it has become my newest boulder of truth for my faith foundation. So, Peter, I believe that's the next slide. I don't want to treat this as I want to treat this as a reading more than a meditation. So, because I think you'll see some undeniable truths in this statement. Again, it's the very last page of his book, Living the Science of Mind. Living the Science of Mind. And he takes you through it's like the grocery store. You got to go through all the other aisles before you can get to the milk, right? Which you came for. He keeps it on the very last page. So take a moment with me and just be open and see if some of the things that I talked about tonight are within this statement. I believe they all are. I know there is a power for good, which is responding to me and bringing into my experience everything necessary for my unfoldment, for my happiness, for my peace, for my health, and for my success. I know there's a power for good that enables me to help others and to bless that whole world. So I say quietly to myself, saying quietly to myself is speaking truth to circumstance. There is one life, that life is God, that life is perfect and all-inclusive. That life is my life now, and it is good. It is flowing through me, circulating in me. I am one with its rhythm. My heart, the portable temple of God, Reverend Ikea says, another little nugget of truth, beats with a pulsation of the universe. And in serenity, in peace, and in joy, my whole physical being is animated by the divine spirit, and if there is anything that does not belong, it is cast out, because there is one perfect, all-inclusive life in me now. And I say to myself, again, speaking truth to circumstances, I am daily guided so that I shall know what to do under every circumstance, in every situation. Divine intelligence guides me in love, in joy, in complete self-expression. Desiring that the law of good alone shall control me. Oh, have your way with me. I bless and prosper everything I am doing. I multiply every activity. I accept and expect happiness generated from gratitude and complete success. Peter, realizing that I am one with all people. I really am one with all people. Really, really understand that. I affirm that there is a silent power flowing through me and them, even the others, that blesses and heals and is prosperous, which makes happy and glad all of our pathways. And realizing that the world is made up of people like myself. Believe it, I'm not as unique as I think. I bless the world and affirm that it shall come under the divine government of good. I stress this. I affirm that it shall come under the divine government of good. Imagine that. Under the divine providence of love, the delivery system, and under the divine leadership of the supreme intelligence. Consider that. I can co-create that speak it into existence. Thank you, goodness, for yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. In Aramaic, the ending of the Lord's Prayer is La al am al min. Amen. From all ages, throughout all ages, we seal this prayer in faith, trust, truth. So with that in mind, I'd like to conclude. Peter, were we able to get that new slide put together, sir? Don't know. We'll find out. Yes. So in conclusion, let me show you another version of my standing stones that I use now. Science of Mind, Revelations of Aramaic Jesus, Aramaic Light. The bookstore is making money off of me unless she stops this 30% sale. Guidance for a Spiritual Journey, and my Good News Bible. Those are my new standing stones. Peter, can you show the next slide? I mentioned my years with a philanthropic organization where I did some good and great things in the world in my own unique and special way. So I'm sharing them with you. I have a picture which spans the 30 years of Stephen's and mine association with that philanthropic organization. On the left, there I am in 1987 on the left. Stephen is on the right. Then the next picture is about 15 years later up in hot, humid Chico, California. Who wears a fully beaded dress and a wig in Chico in 100 degrees weathers? I do. And my beloved Stephen. And there we are in 2015, photographed by the fantastic Christopher Brown. No retouching required, of Miss Timmy Ryan, Absolute Dowager Empress 11 Emeritus of the Imperial Star Empire of Alameda County, and her beloved spouse, Stephen Om. So I'm going to take a minute. I'm probably going to take all my time. I would like to close with something I find inspiring and hopeful, a nugget of truth that you may want to use to speak your truth to circumstance. This is a song I performed in many places in the Bay Area and many states on the West Coast, and it was my signature message to the many members of my philanthropic organization. It is sung by Sandy Patty, a famous Grammy Award-winning gospel singer. We shared a common vision when I did this over 30 years ago. We shared that vision then, and I share it with her even more so now. So please check her out. And as we come out of the song, I'm going to ask you this inquiry, probably run out of time, but what stones, what nuggets of truth are you standing on? What rings true and makes your heart sing? Think about that as we listen to the incomparable Miss Sandy Patty. So Reverend Sally, I took up the whole time.
Wow. Thank you, Paul. I am just thrilled to be on this spiritual journey with you and speaking this language of love so fluently. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I will take us into some announcements. I'm still sitting with all the nuggets that I have taken in from Paul's sharing this evening, but let's go into the announcements. I know we might run a little bit over in time, and then we'll come back and pray out and have an opportunity after we turn off the recording to get together and talk a little bit. So on to our announcements. This Sunday, get myself over here. This Sunday, August 6th, Reverend Sunshine Michelle Coleman will spring us into a new month, considering my passion, my purpose, and speaking to awakening your passion. Sunday's meditation begins at 10 a.m. and the service itself starts at 10:30 a.m. Next Wednesday, practitioner Jessica Chris is with us again. She's returning from CSL Santa Cruz to continue this discussion on awakening to your passion. The Wednesday night service meditation begins at 6:30 p.m. and the service starts at 7 p.m. on Zoom. Coming up on Saturday, August 12th, the Oakland Center will be at the Laurel Street World Music Festival. Now, if you'd like to help out, we've got a booth there. And if you'd like to help out, please contact Beth Van Arkel or Linda Wyman. We've got a workshop coming up. Reverend Dr. Georgia Prescott is offering an after-service workshop on August 20th. Just say no, hell no, to aging gracefully. The cost is $20, and she has requested that at least 8 people pre-register before Wednesday, August 16th. So that means you need to navigate yourself to the classes and events, I think it is, section of our website and pre-register for this class so that we can move forward with it. Now, following up on that, on August 27th, our own Constance Chapman is offering a free class as a teaser after service on August 27th for her upcoming spiritual enrichment class, Mandala Meditation. The class will start on Thursday, September 7th, and it'll go for 5 weeks. Now, remember to contact Sam Ladion, and that's SAMLADION at oaklandcsl.org if you're interested in helping at the Oakland Pride Festival on September 10th. And coming up, the parking lot party will be here very soon. Rain Dugan has generously offered to be the standing stone pulling this party together. So if you'd like to help make this event happen, please contact Rain at susraine@hotmail.com. So there is so much happening at the center. The Laurel Street Fair, class with Reverend Sunshine's coming up, new member Sunday. We'll be having a memorial service for Barbara Williams. There's so much going on. Look for the flyer. We actually have a hands held flyer that you can get at the sanctuary. You're seeing it on the screen here for all of this information. And also, when you're at the sanctuary, remember to go by the bookstore, because the bookstore is having its summer reading time, and all books are 30% off. So as always, for all the information that's going on at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, please visit the website, www.oaklandcsl.org, sign up for the weekly newsletter, and remember to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook for any special updates that you might get there. The individuals shown on this slide are some of the prime contacts for the center. Reach out to them directly for information. Wow. So next is our time of joyous giving. And what I want to say about this, we talk about this every week, every Wednesday, every Sunday. We talk about this idea of giving and giving from the heart. And I want to tell you, be like Paul, give from the heart. And as we give, let's say our affirmation together. Joyously I give with an attitude of abundance, knowing that as I give, I do receive. Now, there are 5 ways that you can give financially to the center. These include credit card, mail, Zelle, by texting, or by giving to the offering basket on Sunday service. And as Paul has so lovingly demonstrated over many, many years, giving of service as well and participating in the activities at the Oakland Center. So before I hand the show over to Dorothy for prayer, I want to say a few thank yous. I want to thank Paul, number one, our speaker this evening. Wow, always inspiring. I want to thank our tech team, Peter Gum. We've got Alice Herndon and Alice Knutson working in the background to support the tech, as well as Constance Chapman. I also want to thank Reverend Sunshine Michelle Coleman for all that she does, the leeway that she gives us on the Wednesday night Oasis to really make this our own. And I want to thank each and every one of you who comes and participates in these activities. We couldn't do it without you being here. So thank you. We are grateful that you are here. And so now I'd like to turn it over to Miss Dorothy Mendez to pray us out for the evening.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Sally. I'm just so blessed to be here with our new minister, Reverend Paul Presuitti, okay? What he has done for us today, I want you to ease off that buckle that you don't just fly out of your seat for the words that he brought to us today. Reverend Paul, I just want to say thank you for your service. Just thank you for just being a beacon and a light to Oakland Center for Spiritual Living all these years. Now, you all don't know this, but our speaker tonight taught me how to paint, okay? I was part of his team. He taught me how to paint the doors and everything in the prayer room. So I have learned so much as far as utilities, but tonight I have learned more spiritual lessons from our beloved Paul Presuitti tonight. And I want you all to just bask in the words that were spoken tonight from him. Just know the love that this man has given to our community, to us as individuals. We are blessed. We are so blessed. And we need to just give thanks to that power and that presence that is moving in and through each and every one of us tonight. So what I'm asking you tonight is just take a deep breath and just let go. As we give thanks for this night, for this wonderful Wednesday night service that took place here at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living and on Zoom. Let us give thanks for the words that were spoken today by our leader today, Paul Presuitti. Let us know that we are all grounded in the love, in the light of God, and that we are truly transformed and renewed by the words that were spoken today. And I know for each and every one of us that we take away something special that we had no idea was coming to us tonight. We are blessed. We are truly blessed for what we have learned today. And I give thanks. I give thanks for the AV team. I give thanks for Reverend Sally. I give thanks for our beloved minister, Reverend Sunshine Michelle, who shows up to support those that are in her community, speaking the word, knowing the truth of who we are. And most of all tonight, I give thanks for Paul Presuitti, who has transformed and renewed us in ways we could not have possibly imagined. So I am just blessing each and every one of us tonight. Know that Dr. Dan begins every Monday through Friday from 12 until 1 o'clock, and know that you are welcomed. You are welcome to be a part of this spiritual journey called Dr. Jan. So I am knowing for each and every one of us, thank you, Mother, Father, God, for this and for the more. And as we move forward tonight, we go grounded in the love, in the light of God. And I give thanks for each and every one of us today. And if you agree with me, please join me in saying, and so it is.
And
And
so
so
it is.
it is.
Yes, it is.
Amen. Hallelujah.